What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fighting with Numbers. This is episode 51, UFC Belgrade, Medic versus Rodriguez. Welcome back. Welcome back to myself, as I am back from vacation. Nice little weekend away. I don't believe I missed anything too important out of that main event last week, but the model didn't miss anything at all. Last week, the model went 4-0, by the way. Clean sheet. It was all favorites, though. Even the tier 5s came home. It's not the card I expected. Sometimes the card just cooperates and everything lands right where it should. Hey, I'll take it every single time. Overall, the model now sits 88, 50, and 6 on the year. That's 63%. So we're trending in the right direction after kind of a funky little stretch. The process continues to hold. This week, the UFC heads to Belgrade, Serbia. Not as data thin as the last couple of weeks. We've got really only 2 fights worth breaking down, though, worth looking at and worth actually betting from the model standpoint. But the betting card, like I said, it's lean, so we'll take it as we can. So yes, unfortunately for you haters, we're ripping another card pack after the breakdown. Hopefully it's the last one for a while, though, before we get back to some fuller cards the model can really sink its numbers into. But hey, this box came with 6 packs. I'm prepared to keep going. 2 fights for the breakdown. The main event has a little bit of a backstory that, honestly, I wish I could make up. I wish I could make it up. Let's make a movie out of it. But let's get into it. I am Rob Moreno, a.k.a. Bobby Knuckles, a.k.a. The Robbio, and find me across all social medias at The Robbio. Full model data and season dashboard is live at fightingwithnumbers.com. Let's go. Fight! So let's start here. And by the way, I am back from vacation. I am still mentally in vacation mode. I just got back yesterday, hoping I don't miss a beat here. I got back from Cabo, Mexico, celebrating my anniversary. Shout out to my wonderful wife, who puts up with me and all my nonsense. If I have any cool points, it is because of her. So shout out my wife. Happy anniversary. But we just got back from Cabo, and that was an awesome trip. I was not thinking about numbers or the UFC at all, actually. I was on the beach. But now we get back into the numbers. You guys don't actually care about my life. You care nothing. Let's start right here. Mateusz Rebecki has lost 3 in a row. By the way, combined, these guys have 5 losses, I think, in a row. So Mateusz, 3 fights lost in a row, most recently submitted by Grant Dawson back in May. He's gone 1-4 in his last 5. Not exactly a very good run, not very clean here, but he keeps showing up, and the numbers underneath the record tell a little bit more of a story than the streak suggests. Kyle Prepolec is on a 2-fight losing streak and is yet to win a fight in his UFC career. He debuted back in 2019. He went 0-2, left the organization, went 4-1 in other promotions, and then came back in 2025 and has lost 2 more since returning. The outside success hasn't exactly translated into the octagon, so to speak. Kyle does hold a 4-inch reach advantage here as we look to pow my tail of the tape. That's about where his advantages honestly kind of end. XR percentages, as you can see on the screen, 64% for Rebecki. Prepolec at 22%. 22! Going 0-4 in the UFC will absolutely do that to a fighter, but that number is a significant red flag, regardless of context. The striking tells a whole nother story, by the way. Rebecki lands 4.94 significant strikes per minute with a .47 differential and has scored 5 knockdowns in the UFC. He absorbs his fair share at 4.47 per minute. He's in exchanges, but he is winning them by a small margin. Prepolec lands 3.25 significant strikes per minute with a negative 2.44 differential. He is absorbing 5.69 significant strikes per minute. 0 knockdowns scored, 0 knockdowns for Rebecki against him either, but the damage absorption number is alarming for Kyle Prepolec here. The grappling adds a whole nother dimension as well. For Rebecki specifically, 67% control rate in clinch and ground time. Only 19 takedowns. 49% takedown accuracy. Not the greatest number, but he is attempting 3.18 takedowns per 5 minutes. So he will be aggressive and active on the mat if necessary. Prepolec, 8% control rate, 0 takedowns, settle, 0 attempted, settle, 45% takedown defense. He has offered nothing on the ground as far as his UFC career goes. The model is as one-sided as we can get here. Mateusz Rebecki, 87% win probability. Tier 1 elite favorite. The problem is this number right here, the odds sitting at -550. Not a chance. That number doesn't get touched. Maybe you can convince me to put him in a parlay. Maybe. But the prop market is where we're going to be hunting. I don't have a lot of numbers available. It seems like everyone's kind of taking it light on the UFC. I can't even find props offshore right now. And when I can't find numbers offshore, trust me, no one in the States has it. Check DraftKings. They don't have props up. That's because no one offshore does, because they are the market makers for the most part in this type of stuff. But one thing I do have is the rounds prop, and the over at 1.5 is priced at -145 right now. And honestly, that's probably the most interesting number on the board for this fight. Rebecki isn't a pure finisher, and even with a massive statistical advantage, getting Prepolec out of there that early isn't exactly guaranteed. Over 1.5 feels pretty good. The over feels alive in this situation. Props are limited across the board. Like I said, right now, it's hard to know where we're going to be looking come later in the week. But currently, as far as Tuesday goes, this is what I have. We'll keep watching as fight night approaches, but Rebecki is the model's prediction. It is the model's pick. The money line stays away. Over 1.5 rounds at -145 is absolutely on my radar at the moment. All right, let's address the storyline here in this main event before we get into the numbers. Uros Medic versus Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez, if you don't know, if you're not in tuned in the MMA storylines, and I like to say that's so MMA, Daniel Rodriguez was released from a Mexican prison in Tijuana back in April. That is not why I was in Mexico. That had nothing to do with it, I swear. But Daniel Rodriguez was just came out of a Mexican prison back in April. It wasn't anything dramatic. It wasn't some crazy crime. It was a marijuana possession crossing the border in TJ. He was heading into Mexico for a weekend getaway after his last victory, and he forgot he had some weed in the car and spent 8 months in that prison. It's a story that's equal parts absurd and genuinely unfortunate. And now, 3 months after his release, he is now fighting in a UFC main event in Belgrade, by the way. Make sure he checks his pockets before he heads across the border this time. I'm not here to judge the man whatsoever. People make mistakes. I get it. But I am here to ask a very reasonable question. What does 8 months in a Mexican prison do to a 39-year-old professional fighter's conditioning, his diet, his training? 3 months of preparation after that ordeal doesn't feel like enough time to me, if I'm being honest. Hey, I haven't been to a Mexican prison yet. Hopefully, never. I can't speak from experience, but it doesn't sound like it's enough time to be confident backing him in any sort of main event, right? But we'll get back to that. Now, Uros Medic on a 3-fight TKO winning streak, most recently stopping Jeff Neal in February. 7 UFC victories, by the way, all 7 by knockout. The dude packs a punch. Every single one. This man does not like to go to the judges. He finds a way to finish you, and that's the end of it from him. Rodriguez, outside of the prison stint, he has had a decent run overall, a 3-fight win streak after a tough losing stretch for himself. Most recently, a decision over Kevin Holland, as I mentioned over a year ago, though. He has a 3-inch reach advantage at 74 inches and has scored 7 knockdowns in the UFC along the way himself, so he does have some sneaky power. But let's take a look at this. XR percentage, 67% for Medic, 66% for Rodriguez. Who's calling me right now? Sorry, my phone just went off. How rude. XR percentage, they're as close as it gets on the surface. Not much to look at there. The striking is where the real gap emerges. Medic lands 5.11 significant strikes per minute with a 1.56 differential, absorbing just 3.55 significant strikes per minute. It's clean, it's controlled, and consistently finding finishes that way. That's how he does that. Rodriguez, kind of a wild man, lands 7.20 significant strikes per minute, high volume, but carries just a 1.89 differential, absorbing 5.31 significant strikes per minute. He is in open firefights. He is eating shots. And against a knockout guy like Uros Medic, that absorption rate is genuinely concerning. Both men have been knocked down 3 times each in the UFC, but Medic also has 8 knockdown score to Rodriguez's 7. There's power coming from both hands. One is just a much cleaner striker. And then the ground game, I mean, what is there to write about here? The ground game's almost irrelevant. 11% control rate for Medic in the clinch and ground time, 29% for Rodriguez. A combined 3 takedowns. I put up the wrong number. 3 takedowns between the two men. The fight lives and dies on the feet here from the opening bell. The model runs it, and hey, it's going to land on Medic. No surprise here, but very carefully. Uros Medic, 61% win probability here. Tier 5 favorite. And normally, Tier 5 is kind of a walk-away situation for me. It's kind of a walk-away, ignore it, don't even get involved. That tier underperforms, and we've respected it all year. But here's where I'm separating the math from the fight and the reality of it, right? The model cannot account for Daniel Rodriguez spending 8 months in a Mexican prison. It cannot account for what that does to a 39-year-old's conditioning, his weight, his muscle memory, mental state. 3 months of camp after that is not the same as a full preparation cycle for your body, right? You got to assume his diet was absolutely awful in a Mexican prison, unless they're giving him tacos. If they serve tacos in a Mexican prison, count me in. And hey, I've backed Daniel Rodriguez plenty of times, and I've been on the wrong side, and I've been on the right side more often than not. I respect what he's done in this sport, but I cannot look at this situation and feel confident backing anything regarding him, to be totally honest. So I'm giving an extra nod toward Uros Medic here, even with the tier 5 label, and I want to find a way to play him. Now, the problem, as always, is the price. Minus 365 on the money line right now. That's not happening for me. And even Medic by knockout is minus 250. My God, give us something. That shortens the price, but it's not enough to make it a clean standalone play for me, at least at this point. Medic feels like a parlay piece this week if I am building a card. A logical addition to something else rather than a straight bet. I mean, hey, it's possible Daniel Rodriguez comes in looking absolutely awful. And hey, maybe Medic in the first round becomes a live situation. As I mentioned, I don't have those props to look at this moment. I'll keep an eye on what's available as fight night gets closer, but right now, Uros Medic is finding a way on my card. The official prediction absolutely falls on Uros Medic. Moneyline is a no, at least not straight. Parlay piece candidate. Quick. That's my card rip transition. Insert card rip transition here. I don't have one yet, so I'm just verbalizing it for all you podcast listeners. All right. That was UFC Belgrade. Just 2 fights on the preview, 2 clear model sides, by the way, and a betting card. It stays conservative for the most part. Now, pack rip number 3. Hopefully it's the last one for a while before the cards start giving us a little bit fuller slate here in the summer. It was hot fight summer for a minute. It is cooled down a little bit. Ask that main event from last week. Let's see what Belgrade brings out of this pack. And as I mentioned, if by some chance I pull a fighter from the fight card in the pack, we'll find a way to bet him. But this time, the box is behind me. I'm not going to waste time by reaching into the box. I have the pack right here. All right, let me reposition a little bit here so we can see everything on the screen. All right. Hey, what up, Ted? So here's the pack. Let's do this properly here. Rip in the pack. Clean rip. Ooh, that looked colored. I'm not going to reveal it yet. What do we got? We got another Ilia Taporia card. This one's just a fight, but that is his featherweight fight against Max Holloway. That's actually a pretty sick card. It's a base card, but nothing crazy. What do we got? Alexander Volkanovski. Nice featherweight. Good fighters. Nothing special about the cards from what I understand, but sick fighters to be pulling. Featherweight. Goats, absolutely. What else we got here? Mario Bautista, bantamweight. So that's a nice card as well. Once again, I believe this is a base card. I don't know. It's kind of shinier than the rest. We'll see what the last card is. Hey, look at that. What do we got here? It is a card that says, fired up. But it is Khabib Nurmagomedov. That is absolutely sick. Pulled up another special card. Oh, it's got a nice little back. That's the color we saw. So maybe this is special. Who knows? This could be absolutely worth nothing. Then that's the beauty of ripping cards. But there we go. Pulled another cool Khabib Nurmagomedov card. Got a couple cards for the week. That is it. That is UFC Belgrade. Thank you for hanging out for an extra 2 minutes to listen to me rip cards up. That's the fights. That's the model. This is the website, fightingwithnumbers.com. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you give it a visit. It's absolutely free. I'm not asking for anything. Just come hang out. You can see all the picks, which right now the model is crunching numbers. There's 4 total modeled fights this week, so feel free to check that out. Those should be up by Wednesday afternoon, letting the model do its thing and cook on the website for a couple minutes. But make sure you check that out. We are 88, 50, and 6 on the year. I don't want to get anyone confused. 63% on the model. That is right where we live. We're making it profitable, and that's what counts. We're moving in the right direction after like I said, a funky stretch. Clean sheet last week. It's exactly what we needed. Head over to fightingwithnumbers.com for the full dashboard model data. There's records there. As always, find me on Twitter/X and Instagram at @TheRabio. Maybe I'll post some more pictures of these little cards. Look at these. These are crazy. If you're enjoying the show, I hope you are. If you're still listening, subscribe, leave a rating, give a review, share it with a friend, share it with an enemy, but share it. Please, fellow fight fans, share it. It helps more than you know. Just trying to grow this little passion project of mine called Fighting with Numbers. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Enjoy the violence.
Perfect.